If you have deep fine lines just like me under the eyes, and no matter how much you try, concealer is not doing the trick for you. It just makes it worse. It creases and it emphasizes your fine lines, then this tutorial is for you. I'm going to show you a master technique followed by makeup artists where they disguise those fine lines or hide those fine lines without applying concealer there. And you'll be surprised how beautifully it works without creasing, and it looks absolutely fantastic. But before we do that, let's finish up the base makeup. I'm going to start with the primer. For primer, I'm going to be using the Smashbox, the original photo finish primer. This is a smoothing and blurring primer, has silicone in it. So I'm going to focus this in areas where I have those fine lines and pores, because this is going to fill in all those pores and fine lines and smooth out my skin before I apply anything else over it. And if you observe carefully, I'm not applying it on those fine lines under my eyes. We are not even going to touch it for now. While silicone-based primers like this fills in all the pores, fine lines, wrinkles, and uneven texture and gives that flawless airbrush finish, they also provide a barrier that locks in moisture while keeping makeup in place for longer. The skin feels smooth and nice, and now we will go in with the foundation. Now while applying foundation, I'm going to take it all the way up until my dark circles, and I'm not going to be applying it there. Now whether you're using a concealer or not, it's not a good idea to apply foundation under your eyes. The reason being, you will be applying something there, whether it's a concealer or something else. And you don't want to be layering up too much. When you layer up too much, especially when you have fine lines, it's definitely going to kick up and crease. For base makeup, I'm going to be using the IT Cosmetics CC Cream, and I'm using the shade Natural Tan. This is color correcting and gives full coverage. It is anti-aging hydrating serum infused and has an SPF of 50. I'm just taking a little bit in the back of my hand and I'm going to pat it on my face using a foundation brush. If you haven't tried the IT Cosmetics CC Cream, it is a cult favorite, and for a reason. I just explained that it has good coverage, it has SPF, and it also has skincare benefits. It's infused with hydrating ingredients like hyaluronic acid, collagen, peptides, and it also evens out the skin tone beautifully. Although this is full coverage, it blends seamlessly, giving you that natural radiant finish. And now it's time for concealer. You might say, but Smitha, you said you're not going to be using concealer. Correct. I'm not going to be using concealer on the fine lines. Instead, I'm going to be very strategically placing the concealer. I'm going to be using this around my mouth where I have those patches to spot correct in case I have any spots, and underneath my eyes. But I'm not going to be taking it all the way where I have those fine lines. I'm just not going to be using any concealer there. So I'm going to stop it somewhere here. So how do I cover those fine lines? That's exactly what I'm going to be showing you after we finish the base makeup. With this concealer, you don't have to wait to blend it out to get full coverage. You can blend it pretty much immediately because this concealer dries very quickly. But I love the coverage on this concealer. If you haven't watched my top 5 concealers from the drugstore, I'm going to link that video right on top. And to blend, I'm just using a dry beauty sponge. See how I've completely avoided applying concealer on the fine line. So that place is completely blank. So we're not going to cover up the fine lines with the concealer. Instead, we will be doing something else. Now, because we haven't applied on the fine lines, if you prefer, you don't need to set the concealer with powder. You can just let it dry, but today I'm going to use just a tad bit of powder around my face to very lightly set the base, and the one that I'm using is my favorite, the One Size Translucent Loose Powder. I'm dusting off the excess and I'm going to very lightly pat this all over my face just so the base absorbs it and sets. Instead of this, you can also use a setting spray if you want a more dewy look. The base makeup looks fantastic. Let's move on to the eye makeup. Let's start with the eyebrows, and I'm going to be using the Kokie Cosmetics Brow Pencil in the shade Chocolate Brown. This pencil has a micro fine tip, so it's very easy to draw those delicate hair-like strokes, and I'm going to be using it both to fill in the top as well as bottom portion of my brows. I'm going to prep my lid with an eyeshadow primer, and this one's from Rare Beauty. I'm just using a couple dots on my lid, and I'm also going to use it to prime my lower lash line where we did not use the concealer, but I have those fine lines. If you didn't know, eyeshadow primers are fabulous in covering up all those fine lines and pores, and I especially like this one because it has a slight tint to it. So it also helps to even out the skin tone. And best of all, you don't even have to set it with powder. As you can see, it does not settle in the fine lines and crease. And that's why it's a fantastic option to use even in the lower lash line where we left that gap where we did not use the concealer. Now, here's where the magic happens. From the Boring palette, which is my collaboration with Ofra Cosmetics, I'm going to dip into Buff and I'm going to frame the eyeshadow look that I'll be creating today. So I'm going to use this at the crease as well as lower lash line. You can, of course, create any kind of eyeshadow look, but start with framing the eyeshadow look by using an eyeshadow which is a closer match to your skin tone. For the lower lash line, we are going over those fine lines and we are disguising them. And this eyeshadow works beautifully because it has a neutral undertone, meaning you can use it on cooler tone skins, you can use it on warmer tone skins, and of course on neutral skin tones. And you can layer it up or down depending on your skin tone. And again, because we have absolutely no concealer in the lower lash line, there is zero creasing. I'm going to now dip into Depth, which is the deeper brown eyeshadow, and I'm going to deepen my crease as well as lower lash line. You can, of course, create any eyeshadow look. The point here is to disguise those fine lines in the lower lash line. So just use a neutral brown shade to disguise it, and after that, you can do any kind of eyeshadow look over it. And then using Halo, I'm going to highlight my lid, focusing most of that eyeshadow in the center of the lid and blending the edges. And that'll give a dome shape to the lid, making the eyelid appear bigger. And I'm also using it to highlight my brow bones. Time to finish up, so I'm going to curl my lashes before I use the Lash Princess Mascara by Essence. I kept the eye makeup super simple today because I wanted to focus this tutorial on how to disguise those fine lines without using concealers. Once you've done that, you can create any kind of eye look. I'm also going to be using mascara in my lower lashes because they will cover up those fine lines as well. Also, I want you to know that creasing is not the same as fine lines being visible. Your fine lines are still going to be visible because this is not a medical procedure like Botox. This is just makeup. If you have fine lines, they will be visible. So what is creasing? Creasing is when a product like concealer goes into those fine lines, settles in the fine lines and separates out. And that is going to emphasize the fine lines even more. But in this case, we don't have that problem because we didn't even use a concealer over the fine lines. So there's obviously zero creasing. Now let's finish up the rest of the face. I'm going to add some dimension. My face is looking so flat. So I'm going to warm up my face using the HD Skin Matte Velvet Press Powder from Makeup Forever, and this is in the shade 4N68. This is a pressed powder, but I'm using a darker shade, so it's going to be matte, but at the same time I'm almost going to use it like a bronzer. And this is such a beautiful powder, even to set your face if you haven't used this. It is very pigmented. I personally like to use the darker shades as a bronzer. And the brush that I'm using is a large contouring brush from Rose & Ben Beauty. For blush, I'm going to be using Bare Minerals. This is in the shade You Had Me at Medlow. This is such a beautiful shade, especially if you have deeper skin tones. It melts beautifully into the skin. It's definitely not a pinky pink, it's a Maui pink and has a slight purple undertone. You see how beautiful that color is. All the shades in the Gen Nude blush from Bare Minerals are absolutely fantastic. On my lips, I'm excited to try this product. Just look at this packaging from YSL. It is so cute for Valentine's Day. This is the YSL Love Shine Candy Glaze in the shade 16. Glides really smooth. It looks delicious. And it's definitely very comfortable on the lips, although it's not transfer proof. It adds the lightest, beautiful tint to your lips. And it almost has the consistency of a lip balm. Isn't this so cute? I'm going to quickly line my lips. I'm just using a brow pencil from Kokie Cosmetics here. I'm using very little just to give some shape to my lips. That's pretty much it, my friends. I'd love for you to try this technique, and if you do, come back and let me know how it worked out for you. If you want information on any of the products that I used, I'm going to link those in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit thumbs up, and if you're new here or if you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel. I promise to give you the best of beauty content. I do a live chat and get ready with me every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So make sure you have your palettes and makeup ready so you can get ready with me. And if you want to consult with me on a one-on-one, I'm going to link that in the description box below as well. I love you guys so much, and I will see you soon with a brand new one. Bye guys.